in this problem, we're told a sports car moving at constant speed travels 110 meters in 5 seconds. If it then brakes and comes to a stop in 4 seconds, what is the magnitude of its acceleration in meters per second squared and in g's? And so we're told the g is equal to 9.8 meters per second squared. So let's just draw a diagram of what's going on here to better understand it. So we have this car. I can't really draw a car, so I'm just going to draw a box with wheels. And so here's our car. And so we know it's traveling at a constant speed, and it travels 110 meters in 5 seconds. So it's going to travel this distance. We're going to call it 110 meters. And the amount of time this takes is going to be 5 seconds. And so at this point, it then brakes. So I'm going to draw a line right here and say B, right? B stands for brakes. And then after it brakes, it's going to come to a stop in 4 seconds. So it's going to travel some distance here. We don't really know the distance, but it's going to be 4 seconds long. And then at the end of this, the car is going to be stopped, right? It comes to a stop. So it's going to be traveling 0 meters per second, right? Because it's at rest, it's stopped, it's not going to be traveling. And so we're trying to find acceleration, the acceleration of this, right? So the magnitude of acceleration, right? Because at this point, it's going to start slowing down. So we want to find the acceleration that causes it to stop, basically. And so in order to do that, there's something that we have to find first. So let's write down actually given. And so we know that it's going to be 4 seconds, right? So we're basically only focusing on this interval right here. This interval isn't really necessary, or what's necessary for one thing, and we'll find that in a second. But time is going to be 4 seconds, right? So it takes 4 seconds for it to stop. And we're trying to solve for acceleration here. So time is going to be taken 4 seconds to stop. Its final velocity, which is v, right? It's coming to a stop, right? So it's going to be 0 meters per second. So that's going to be v. V sub 0, though, is what we need to find. We're going to use this to find it. So we need to find v sub 0, but they're asking us for acceleration. So we're going to write acceleration equals question mark, and that's what we're trying to find. But first, let's find v sub 0. So how do we find the velocity at this point, right? We need to find when it starts braking. So we know it's traveling at a constant speed here. So in order to find it, what you want to do is take, we know velocities in meters per second. So just take the amount you travel and then divide it by the seconds, right? So 110 meters divided by 5 seconds. If you do that, you should get 22, and it's in meters per second, right? It's because it's traveling at a constant speed. So we know this velocity is just constant right here, and then at this point, it's going to start slowing down. So right here, we're traveling 22 meters per second, and this is going to be our initial velocity, so 22 meters per second. And so now we can actually solve. So which equation do we want to use? We're focusing on this area right here, and if you see what we're given, we're not given delta x, which is just a distance, right? So we're not going to use that. And if you look here for equation 1, we're given all the variables. We're given v sub 0, t, and we're solving for a. So let's just plug everything in and solve. So v, which is 0, equals v sub 0, which is 22, plus a, which is what we're solving for. So we just put a, times t, which is 4. So plus 4a. Now let's solve for a. So minus 22 from both sides. Minus 22 equals 4a. And if we divide by 4, we're going to get that a equals minus 22 over 4. So if you divide that, you're going to get that it equals minus 5.5. And keep in mind the units we're using, right? So acceleration is in meters per second squared, and these are in meters per second, so you can just tell based off that. So minus 5.5 meters per second squared. And so this right here is going to be the first part, right? So it's acceleration in meters per second squared. It's going to be minus 5.5, but it tells us to find it in g's next. So in order to find it in g's, you want to take the magnitude. So the magnitude is just going to be the number. So it's going to be 5.5. You don't care about the negative because velocity is like a vector quantity, right? So it has magnitude and direction. So the direction is what the minus sign specifies, but we're just focusing on the magnitude, so the number. So just take that number, 5.5, and divide it by whatever a g is. So a g equals 9.8 meters per second squared. So you're just going to divide them. 5.5, if you divide it by 9.8, you're going to get that it equals 0.5612, and so on. I'm just going to round to 2 decimal places, so 0.56, and then the units is going to be g's. So our acceleration is going to be 0.56 g. So this is going to be your answer in g's. This is going to be your answer in meters per second squared, and that's how you solve this problem.